Brian Wilson joins us. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dan, and you?
It is Wednesdays with Wilson, and always appreciate having our friend Brian Wilson on. So one of these super texters, you know, Brian, how much we love the super text line, said that when I said, snowpocalypse or Ice-mageddon, they called that cringy. I think that's clever.
No, listen, I'm telling you, we can have a little fun about it, but this could be deadly serious.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at my Apple app, which is where I go to check my forecast. They are now saying on the Apple app, now, look, this is early and it could change, and this may be just, one model that looks particularly bad. But the Apple app now says that on Saturday, we can expect in our area in Nashville 23 to 28 inches of snow, followed by Sunday with another 9 to 11. I think that's probably not likely, but I think there is the potential for this storm to be really, really bad. And what I noticed in looking at the American and the European models, they're now coming together. There is agreement in the models, and more agreement that there was. And it does seem that the storm is moving north. And when it moves north, that means that instead of getting a snow, a lot of people, let's say south of I-40, could get a lot of ice. You get a half of an inch or an inch of ice, and a lot of people are going to lose power. I mean, this is not a storm to mess around with. Now, look, it's early. We keep watching it, but preparations would not be out of line in this particular case.
Well,
as we get closer.
And Brian, we had Stefano DiPietro on earlier, and the temperatures following the storm are not going to help.
Well, that's the other thing is once you get all this snow and ice in, it's not going away for a while. And you know how we are. God bless us here in Middle Tennessee and the state of Tennessee at large. We're just not very good with this kind of stuff. So it's going to be a mess, and it has the potential to be catastrophic. I think it probably will just be bad, but it could be worse than bad.
Well, yeah, and I mean, where I live in a subdivision, and so we always have the big question every year, okay, what are we going to do if it snows like this? And, there seems to be sometimes a divide amongst communities as far as whether or not we should, for example, pay for somebody to come in and plow all the snow. Because,
right.
If you're in a subdivision like I am, you've got a HOA or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And, a couple of years ago, we all had a big argument about whether or not we should actually pay to have someone come in and plow the snow. And, you have some of the people that are like, I pay my property taxes and all this kind of stuff. And, meantime, there's others that are like, you know what? We just want to get the hell out of the subdivision.
Well, here in Watertown, I don't think we have a snow plow. So I don't know what we're going to do.
All right. So just real quickly, then we'll get on to business because you and I agree on Don Lemon. But what does the Brian Wilson household do to prepare for such a thing?
I think I'm gonna go get gasoline. I have a little Honda generator, and I'm gonna get a lot of gasoline stockpiled for that. Fill up the cars, get everything charged, put water in the bathtub, because look, if you do lose power. I've been through enough of these storms and catastrophic, hurricanes and that kind of stuff to know that when you lose power, you lose the ability to pump water. And when you can't pump water, you can't flush your toilets. You can't do a lot of things. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up the bathtub with water, and I'm gonna go ahead and just do the things that make sense. I don't have a snowblower. I did at one time when I lived in Maryland, but nobody around here has snowblowers. So I mean, it's just going to be shovel it out and try to do the best you very much you can. And thank goodness we have 3 refrigerators in our house. We have one in the house and one in Cabana Wife's garage, and then I have one here in my man cave. So we're just gonna load them up with food and settle in and hope that we still have electricity.
I don't think this is snow blower kind of snow anyway. Stefano DiPietro was saying this is that heart attack snow.
If you get snow and then icy on top of it, it's just a mess. It's just hard to deal with.
All right, I want to play real quickly for you. We're going to talk about Don Lemon, and I just want to play for you what Megyn Kelly had to say about Don Lemon. Listen to this.
You're too stupid to understand the law, but this one also happens to be illegal. You know how it's illegal to harass people or to show up at the abortion clinic? You're not allowed to do that. Well, guess what? That same law also applies to places of worship. There are some very limited, but this is one of them, limits on your First Amendment rights. This is the line beyond which we cannot allow them to cross. I don't care if it takes the National Guard, if it takes all of Pam Bondi's DOJ, if it takes President Trump personally making a visit to this church. I don't care what has to be done, but this is the red line, and they've crossed it.
So that is Megyn Kelly. Clearly she's angry.
My old friend Megyn is correct.
She's absolutely correct. So a couple of things. Number one, you are at the heart a journalist. I mean, I was a news anchor and that kind of thing too, but I mean, you did journalism for so many years. I think what Don Lemon was doing, number one, inserting himself into the story, but two, it was like advocacy journalism.
Yeah, let me just play a little clip. This is a little sense of this. Okay. So he's in the church. He follows these protesters in, and is he observing and reporting what he sees? No, he's opining.
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street and you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry.
See, in my argument would be that he's not being a journalist in this particular case. He's being an activist, and he is just as much a part of the protest as all those people that were out there protesting.
Brian, if I
anti-ICE people.
Brian, if I may, I believe I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think that he's actually, you said he's part of the protest. He's more than just a part of it because he is echoing in a very big way their talking points.
Absolutely. And so, look, there's several ways they can go at this. But remember, when I think it was a small group of elderly women who were protesting at an abortion clinic, they got sent away for 40 years.
Yeah.
Then, Don Lemon, I'm telling you, is actually in real trouble here. And the whole thing in Minnesota just continues to devolve. I saw a story where apparently the protesters have a website where they post the ICE vehicles and their license plate numbers, and so that, you can know which ones to harass. And the Fox people found out that their rental car had been put on that list as confirmed ICE. So they went out. I bet you they changed their car out pretty quickly. But imagine the next family who comes into Minnesota at the airport and picks up that rental car. They're going to get harassed as being part of ICE. It's ridiculous how this thing has spiraled out of control. Don Lemon and those protesters have got a serious legal problem.
And here's the thing, Brian, they don't care about the innocent people that they're harassing. That's the frustrating part of all of this. And I would love nothing more than to see Don Lemon thrown in jail because, and these protesters as well. Now, in my heart of hearts, do I believe that they will? Probably not, but I would love to see it.
I don't know. I mean, Pam Bondi apparently showed up in Minnesota yesterday, so, I think it's getting serious.
All right, let's talk real quickly about the drug cartels. Mexico is finally doing something about the drug cartels. We all know that Donald Trump has made them foreign terrorist organizations, and we still have problems, drugs coming across our southern border. But I want to talk a little bit about that because Mexico is finally doing something. So, Brian, the politicians in Mexico, they're always sort of in a tough spot, right? Because, in my estimation, it seems to me like the cartels run the country of Mexico. You have mayors that are, killed all the time by the cartels. Talk about this dynamic between the president of Mexico, the government of Mexico, and the cartels.
Yeah, Scheinbaum, the president of Mexico, have watched what happened in Venezuela. And one of the great things about Donald Trump is that one of his greatest negotiating tools, and this is true with his negotiations in Greenland as well, is that he's unpredictable. And so Scheinbaum takes a look at what happened in Venezuela, and she does not want that to happen in Mexico. So they have sent 37 cartel members back to the United States in the most recent wave. So they're taking it seriously, and it's about time. Look, I mean, for years and years and years, you're right. The cartels have really controlled Mexico, and the whole system there is very corrupt. But finally, Mexico, having seen what happened in Venezuela, is going, well, we better get serious about this now, and they're doing something about it now. Are these low-level people? Are they still protecting the big guys? I'm just not in a position to know that, but I am glad to see it happen, and Mexico would be wise to keep that up. The thing about Mexico, and it's the same is true as Venezuela. You have tremendous natural resources in both of those countries. I mean, Mexico's got a lot of oil. So does Venezuela. And probably most oil in the whole world is in Venezuela. And why is it that with all that natural resource richness, the country's is just rampant with poverty? The people are getting cheated because the politicians are corrupt. And I think Scheinbaum is an agent for change here. And I'm glad to see this.
Greenland. So there's a lot going on. President Trump, of course, gonna light some fires in Switzerland at the World Economic Forum.
He just arrived in Davos. I saw that. Yeah.
So, the polling on this is interesting. Not that I necessarily believe the polling, but whatever. But the president has received some Republican pushback on his President Trump's commentary or comments on Greenland. He's going to get it one way or another and so forth. And I don't know. What do you think about all this?
He backed off a little bit yesterday in that rambling press conference when he said, when we get to the negotiations, Greenland's going to be happy and we're going to be happy and Denmark's going to be happy. So perhaps it's a negotiating tactic. He's like, it's like buying a new car. You go into a new car dealership and you want a car. You throw out a low number, they throw out a high number, and that he's throwing out worst case scenario. And again, he's unpredictable. Many people look at him and say, I don't know, he might just be crazy enough to invade Greenland. I don't think he's going to do that, but I do see why he wants it and why it's important. And other presidents, this is nothing new. Other presidents have tried to buy Greenland in the past, and they couldn't get a deal done. But listen to this little statistic. The Russian presence in the Arctic. They have 6 Army bases, 10 radar stations, 14 airfields, and 16 deep water ports in the Arctic. So they are moving in that part of the world to control it, and it is strategically important to the United States in a huge way. I think it's a negotiating tactic, and I think that what he wants really is for NATO to step up and do more, and to allow the United States to have more control over the security. We may not have to own it, but we certainly need to have a bigger presence there. Yeah,
and one of the things that I've been saying is, there's no doubt that Europe is weak. I mean, look what they've allowed Europe to become. And I don't personally believe that, Europe or NATO, if the United States, for whatever reason, pulled out, which I don't think we will, because we're not going to leave Greenland, susceptible to an attack or a takeover. But if it was fully up to just Europe and just NATO without the United States, Denmark wouldn't have a chance, and NATO wouldn't have a chance if China or Russia
NATO is nothing without the United States.
Exactly. All right, real quick, Brian, because we're running out of time. Air Force One had to turn around today because I guess they had an electrical problem. That's a little scary.
That's very rare. I probably did about 30 flights on Air Force One, and what you got to know in an international trip is there are 2 what we would call a 747. It's not really a 747, but it looks like one, and one is already pre-deployed to Switzerland. because they send one over in advance in case they get there and they have mechanical problems. They got an extra plane to bring everybody back. They send over Secret Service and a lot of other stuff like that and staff in the first aircraft. So when this one had to turn around, there was not the backup Air Force One, the 747. So he got into a 757, which is often used by the Secretary of State on international trips, or the Vice President, or when they need to go into a smaller airport. And so they've got a plan. I mean, it's nice to, call the Air Force and say, get another jet ready. We got a little problem here. But these planes are 40 years old.
Right.
And, we need to get Air Force One replaced in a big way. A lot of flights lately, the diplomatic flights and presidential flights and what they call executive branch flights, have had technical problems of late. This is not the only one.
Who was it that was supposed to donate a plane to Trump?
It was Qatar, and they
Qatar?
did. Yeah, Qatar did it, and now the question is, can they get that thing up and running in short order? Trump wants it ready during his term in office,
right?
But I'm not sure that they can get that thing ready that quickly.
And they have been, because remember, and I know you and I talked about this, Brian, just off the cuff here. They've been trying to get a new Air Force One ready for a long time. Yeah,
they've got one that they've been working on for some time. I don't understand why they can't move that thing forward. But
right.
Yeah, apparently it's a very exacting process because you've got to harden these aircraft for, they got to be able to operate in a nuclear environment. They got to have communications. They got to have security. There is a lot of secret stuff on Air Force One that, that some of us have had a chance to see up close and personal. And it just takes a lot of time to kind of put that stuff in and upgrade it. You want the latest and the greatest because you're going to be using this aircraft for another 40 years.
You ever get worried when you're on Air Force One or you're like, I am on the most secure aircraft in the world?
I mean, it's a great aircraft. I love flying on Air Force One every time that I had the opportunity to do it. It is just the best. It is the crew is fantastic. The food is great. It is the Cadillac of aircraft.
Have you, so just real quickly, like 30 seconds, in California, Ronald Reagan's Presidential Museum, they've got his Air Force One. Is that the same one that you flew on?
No. That was retired long before. I only flew on the 747s, the bigger jets.
Didn't they have to raise the ceiling for you, Brian?
No, not at all. It's a very spacious aircraft, and the press cabin is in the back next to the galley, and we had to come down the back stairs. Whenever we came on or off. And right in front of us was the cabin where they put all the Secret Service agents. So they were never going to, I think they did that just to keep an eye on the press corps, make sure they didn't, wander around.
Sure. All right, Brian, always great to have you on. And this whole segment, of course, brought to us by our friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Brian, good luck during Snowmageddon or Icepocalypse. And we may check in with you on Monday just to see how things are going in Watertown.
Yeah, I'll be around. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be buckled down and trying to stay warm.
Running late, want to get right to the Newsmaker Hotline. Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, is joining us. Of course, illegal immigration always in the news. And Mr. Speaker, it does seem like there is a battle going on, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon, between Nashville Democrats and Republicans in the State House. Now, last week, you folks introduced 8 bills that target illegal aliens. And as Uncle Phil used to say, it demagnetizes the state of Tennessee. Mr. Speaker, I want to play for you a piece of audio from Mayor Freddie O'Connell, who seemed to have some issues with what you did. Listen.
We're following all these bills very closely.
Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell reiterated Friday that Metro Police will not be involved in enforcing federal immigration laws and that the proposed bills don't reflect Music City.
So far, I would not say the spirit of the bills is anything close to the welcoming and successful city that we think we've built with a wonderful immigrant and refugee population.
Okay, so a couple of things here, Cameron Sexton, I want you to cover. First, though, give me your response to the mayor's thoughts on your bills.
In response, because what we even said at our presser is we want to preserve the legal immigration community. We're not against immigrants. We're we're against illegal immigrants coming into our country, in our state. And it seems like, based on his statement, he was saying that Nashville is technically a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants, as in that reference, because he referenced the bills with the immigrant community, which means he's welcoming illegal immigrants, first of all. That's how I take what he means, which is against the law, and we're closing the loophole, so we need to look into that. As far as the other stuff, look, what you have is you have Democrats moving way left. They're afraid to take on the liberal, woke, anti-ICE people, socialists in their party, and they're doing everything they can to placate them so they don't become targets. And, you know, in Tennessee, we're not going to stand for that. We're not going to stand for illegals coming into our state, taking public benefits away from people who are here legally and lawfully. We're not going to allow them to drive on our roads. We're not going to allow them to get state and local jobs, and we're going to force the DAs and judges and law enforcement all across our state to enforce and work with ICE.
I want to play a piece of audio. I chuckled at this. I'm going to tell you. This was part of your press conference the other day. Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, joining us. You said this a few days ago in making the announcement.
I think some of you have reported that Nashville is saying that we're not working with ICE so that we can't be a sanctuary city, but we can house them here.
And one of the things that, as I play that, is that it does seem like Nashville itself is wanting to bring in and be a magnet for illegal immigration. I've got a question for you. So Davidson County does have and correct me if I'm incorrect on this, Davidson County does have a 287G agreement with the federal government. Now, for those that don't know, a 287G is an agreement that allows local police and authorities to assist federal authorities in identifying and detaining illegal aliens. Now, Davidson County has a 287G, from what I understand. The city of Nashville, though, does not. So is this part of, your accusation, if you will, that Nashville is effectively harboring illegal aliens?
Well, what I think is happening is they know they can't be a sanctuary city in our state, but it also means that Metro Police and Davidson County are not working with ICE based on their own comments. I'd have to look to see if Davidson County's 287G. I was under the assumption, based on what I know, that they weren't, unless they signed recently. But what I will say is they know they have illegals based off the mayor's comments. They know that they're harboring illegals, and they don't want to work with federal officials and state officials. And kind of like with Memphis, look, in Memphis, you had the local law enforcement work with the federal resources, work with state resources. And Memphis is at a 40-year low. The amount of illegals and violent criminals they rounded up in just about 3 months has been astonishing. You have the same issue here in Nashville, and we're not going to sit here and allow that to continue to happen. And one of the interesting comments from that presser is a reporter actually asked, what is this going to cost the state for all these bills? And the response that we had back was, what's the cost to Tennessee taxpayers for these illegals who come in and rape and murder and abuse and steal from us, who get on public benefits, who do what happens in Minnesota or what's happening in California? We're also cracking down on CDLs coming in our state. And so we're going to force law enforcement, whether you're Metro or not, force the judges, whether you're this woke, progressive, liberal judge or not, or these DAs who are potentially progressive, woke, and liberal DAs, to work to do what we need to make sure that if we're in Tennessee, we're going to work with those who are here legally and lawfully. If you're here illegally, you better not come into Tennessee, because you're going to go back to whatever country you came from.
You said something during the presser. I'm going to play this real quick, because I thought the Republicans did a great job of selling what you're trying to pass in the state legislature to fight illegal immigration.
We're committed to protecting taxpayer dollars, reducing fraud, waste, and abuse, and once and for all putting an end to sanctuary cities in our state. We're going to do what we can to make sure that if you're here illegally, we will have the data, we'll have the transparency, and we're not spending taxpayer dollars on you unless you're in jail.
I love that last part, unless you're in jail. I want to delve into that a little bit, and I'm glad you brought up the whole CDL thing, because we're talking about this when the story came out. We have like 8 bills. What was our favorite bill as far as fighting illegal immigration? The CDL one actually was my favorite. One of the things that I would ask, do we even know how much we spend on illegal aliens per year in the state of Tennessee?
We have estimates, and so it's not hard data. That's why we're also doing all these reportings and other mechanisms. It's about $940 to $70 million is the estimate that we spend. And the illegal immigrant associations say that they bring in over $300 million in revenue, which is, if that's the case, it's a $700 million hole. That's
insane. And so it is kind of funny or ridiculous maybe for somebody to ask you, how much will implementing these policies cost? It's like, number one, right. I should be doing an interview, not monologuing, but, this is the party. And, if we could just save one life, people, you know what I mean? Yes. We just had a guy killed by an illegal alien in Knoxville. He was driving the wrong way on 635. And somebody from Knoxville, I believe, was killed, somebody on a motorcycle. As far as the bills that you folks are introducing, some of these we've talked about here on the show, most as topics over the years. One that I was interested in very much so is the CDLs. Now, we know that illegal alien truck drivers have been a huge issue across the country. House Bill 1706 would not recognize these CDLs issued in places like, for example, California. So in a practical way, though, how will that work? If one of these guys is pulled over in Tennessee, do you impound the truck? Do you fine him? Do you fine the company? What happens?
All the above, and you can sue the company and take their cargo, have that. There's a lot of different ways to go about that, giving law enforcement the tools, making it easier to uncover. It's also with like professional licenses is what we're doing. Like to get a professional license inside the state of Tennessee now, you have to have legal verification, legal status check. If it's coming from a reciprocal state, so let's say if it's a professional license coming into Tennessee where you usually just get it if you already have one, if they don't check legal status, we're checking your legal status. And if you can't prove it, we're not giving you that professional license to come into our state to work. And so CDLs are going to work the same way. We're working with law enforcement on the bill. We have a minimum of $1 million lawsuit if you come in and a person causes an accident and they're an illegal immigrant with a CDL. And so we're looking to crack down on how that's going to work, what that looks like. And in our state, we don't issue licenses to people without checking their legal status. We're cracking down on car registration. There's a loophole where you could be here illegally. You can't get a driver's license, but you can take your car down and get car tags for it. And we're not going to allow that anymore. We're checking legal status at that point as well. And so we have been working closely with the White House, with Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller tweeted out yesterday that Tennessee is the way that you go about handling illegal immigration. We're proud to work with them. The Democrats had a presser yesterday where they talked about abolishing ICE, and they don't welcome Stephen Miller. He doesn't need to come to the state of Tennessee, which is a fascinating thing if you look at the liberal left. An American citizen they won't welcome into their state, but they welcome illegal immigrants who come in from all these other countries, and a lot of them are gang members.
You're absolutely right. Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, joining us. So you worked with Stephen Miller on all of this to become the model for the country on how states should handle immigration. It comes at such a great time because of what we're seeing in Minnesota. So when you look at what's going on in Minnesota, obviously you've been working on this since before Minnesota became a big story. But how did this whole thing come about? Did you go about wanting to become the model, or it just ended up that way?
No, I mean, it's through conversations. And so we've had multiple conversations with the White House. I visited the White House, visited with Stephen Miller, talked to Stephen Miller and his staff multiple times. We've had groups come together to talk about different policies. We have different ideas on energy, different ideas on crime, different ideas on illegal immigration, meaning those are all the topics that we're discussing that we're going to continue to push forward. Illegal immigration was a big issue because of what happened with President Biden in office and how the borders were run amok. Now with President Trump, he's put a stop to it, but we still have all these people here. And so we worked with them for 6-7 months to come up with things of here's the issues. And then as we were diving in on our side, we found there was a loophole with car tags. And so we added that in. And so we were very aware of what we were doing, and they had an idea of how to do it. And they understand that in the federal government, you can't really accomplish anything because you can't really get a bill passed in Congress. It's very difficult based on how they're working now. And so moving their agenda to the states and allowing us to play the one that's the strength in this relationship and do that in our state is what they wanted to do, and we're proud to work with them. And I think what we have put forth is a very solid plan, common sense plan, you might say. I mean, realistically, who's going to argue that public benefits should not be for those who are here legally and lawfully?
Right.
Yeah. Just your far left. Who says that, state and local jobs should not be for those who are here legally and lawfully, but for people who are illegal? That's how you're going to define the crazy left people, because they're going to come out and oppose it. And if you're opposing this, then you're a crazy left.
All right. So I'm laughing just because this is going to come up for debate. And how insane do you think that's going to be with Justin Jones, who, by the way, if you want a good laugh this morning, Cameron Sexton, go watch Hannity from last night. Justin Jones was on there, really exposed Justin Jones as far as, his inability to debate or even answer questions. But are you concerned about how this debate is going to be on the House floor?
No, the thing that the far left doesn't realize is every time that Justin Jones, he's a non-serious person, first of all. Mm-hmm. He uses the same 5 words every time you catch him, and he wants to start baiting you and saying 5 words. I think that's as big as the vocabulary that he may have on how to handle a debate. But barring that is we know what they're going to do. We know they're going to have protesters. But whenever they do what they do, all they do is solidify the Republican caucus, and we become stronger. So I appreciate everything they're doing to make our caucus stronger, keeping us together as they divide their caucus.
By and large, last question here, and I always appreciate your time. Do you sense that the Republicans and the conservatives in the state of Tennessee, are they for all 8 bills that you've put forward?
I haven't polled it, but we have not had any pushback from anybody except the far left. Even some Democrats. I mean, look, Democrats had a presser after we announced our policies, and then the Tennessean ran a story. There was not a single quote that I found opposing the bills. There was a quote from the Immigration Association, who prefers illegals to come into our country, that called the bills mean-spirited and so forth, which is what you expect. Yeah. But even the Democrat, there's an article in Upper East Tennessee with the Democrat Party chairman. They just said we're going in and splitting up families, but they never said they could oppose the bills because they understand that that's something that they can't do because they look bad. But your crazy people are going to be opposed to it. And that's how you define how crazy the left is, by how many people are opposed. We look forward to passing this. I think if you polled it, I think it would poll anywhere from 65 to 75% success in our state.
I mean, we polled it here at WTN on the morning show. I don't think we had one person that was against what you folks are doing. And you brought, Cameron Sexton, you brought up such a great point where federally, Congress can't do a thing. I mean, they are literally paralyzed, which means that the work that you're doing in the state legislature is so incredibly important on combating illegal immigration. I thank you very much for joining us here on Nashville's Morning News. Good luck with Snowmageddon.
All right, we'll do it. We'll see how it goes on Crossville. Thank you so much.
All right, see you later. Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. All right, very good. 7:54 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Joan, what do you like better, Snowpocalypse or Ice-mageddon?
I think I like Snowpocalypse.
You like Snowpocalypse?
Yeah.
But we've got to somehow compare the two.
We can always do a Dan poll.
What's the difference between an Armageddon and an apocalypse? I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, Sam, you're posing the question. What's the answer? See,
Yeah,
Sam doesn't even know. He comes up with all these
I didn't come up with the name, man. That was you.
Sam comes up with all these hoity-toity questions, and he doesn't know the answer. By the way, I'm looking forward to Chris Hand coming in and seeing the state of the WTN microphone.
Oh, he's going to love this.
Because I haven't been obsessing over it like all morning long, but for folks that are just joining us and commenting on the YouTube chat and so forth, I came in and I was adjusting the microphone and the thing just broke off the microphone arm. So I kid you not, the microphone is currently being held up by a like a fruit basket kind of a thing. It's the funniest thing ever. Like millions of dollars this radio station bills, and this is what. And by the way, it's nobody's fault. I mean, it's Sam's fault, actually.
Whoa. I just need you at some point today to look into the microphone and say we're a long way from Kansas, Toto.
Because we were talking earlier about how the basket that the microphone is being held in is akin to the Wicked Witch of the West's basket on her bike.
Well, Dorothy.
Oh, Dorothy. Was it Dorothy? I haven't seen it in years. We all know I have a thing about the Wicked Witch of the West, but we're not going to go back down that conversation.
Gotcha.
Still trying to live that down. Moving right along.